I'm here to refute the claim that the California high-speed rail would pay itself off within 20 years. And I believe that it will not be able to pay itself off within the small amount of time for reasons that there wouldn't be enough riders to pay off the actual project itself. The original claim said that the project would pay itself through direct ticketing and indirect economic activities and taxes. But in September 2008, Reason Foundation, Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, and the Citizens Against Government Waste Groups published a proposal that said that the project would cost around $65.2 to $81.4 billion, not $68 billion that it was stated. And it is also said that there would be fewer riders by 2030 that would take this actual bullet train, and less riders would mean less tickets, which means you would lose money in the end. And the estimate for the project has been going up over the years, with the latest price estimate by the authority for a full build option to be at $91.4 billion as of 2012. And also the popularity for this project has been going down as well. In March 2013, the Public Policy Institute of California took a poll where only 43% of voters would be likely to support this project, which was a decline of 10% from when the measure was passed in 2008. And the decline of supporters for this project is growing due to the multiple concerns regarding the price and whether or not it is worth investing all this money into making this highway speed rail, based on the fact that multiple people are saying they wouldn't take it as much, or they're not willing to invest the money and time to do this. And based on these multiple concerns and growing problems, I believe that the California Highway Speed Rail will not be able to pay itself within 20 years.
Maya, what you have basically is a counterclaim that you're arguing here about the negatives of the high-speed rail when it comes to cost issues, which is it's pretty nicely developed. You've got some good information in the argument. However, there are a few things that I want to point out. There's not really any discussion of the premises that the advocate used in supporting their claim and whether or not they're valid. There's no discussion of the evidence that the advocates used in supporting their claim and whether or not it's trustworthy or reliable. So it comes down to, well, I've got a set of arguments versus your set of arguments about why it's going to be effective. And so that's kind of a point counterpoint thing. It's not so much a refutation as it is, like I said before, it's a rebuttal argument. And it's a rebuttal argument that is very broad. You've got several secondary claims, one that deals with the cost escalation, and one that suggests that ridership's not likely to be that high, although that one was not independently stated. There's evidence that suggests that in one of your arguments. And then there's an argument that talks about public support for the project. Basically, you've got two general claims in response to everything that the advocate presented, and they're good claims, but they don't necessarily refute issues that the advocate talked about. The cost estimate, for instance, I think is an easy argument to point to, because you've got a lot of information that suggests that it's escalated. And the best piece of information that you have is the one from the High-Speed Rail Authority themselves. In other words, the same source that the advocate's using on this point that says that the cost is, the 2012 estimated cost is now $90 billion, not the $68 billion, not the $30 billion that was promised when it was passed, not the $68 billion that the advocate was talking about, but substantially more than that, and that's what's gone on in the last year since the advocate's previous estimate. So you can just kind of do a little projection on this. Look, every year this goes on, the cost amount gets higher and higher and higher. And the notion that we're going to be able to recover those cost amounts, given the premises of the advocate's argument about what ridership would be back in 2010 when they got started on this thing, I think that's really problematic, and you have to explain that. And then your second argument talks about how public support for it has gone down. Well, that's interesting information, although I'm not sure that undermines the advocate's claim, unless the lack of support from the public is going to be a reflection of the willingness of people to use the train. Now, there are a lot of arguments about the problems that are coming up with the train that I think you miss here. For instance, the notion that it's a high-speed train, that it's going to be a 2-hour ride from Los Angeles to San Francisco, has largely been abandoned because the way the train has to be built, the tracks that they're using in order to make it to go, the stops that you have to make. It will be a fast train, but it's not going to be a bullet train going back and forth, and it's going to have multiple stops. So what's the time difference going to be? That's one of those things that people who are deciding whether or not to ride a train or take a plane would take into consideration, and the conditions have changed from the original argument. I think those are things that, they're not that hard to find, and they might have made that argument a little bit more useful rather than just the public support for it is down. All right, thank you.